Welcome. I am Luana Bradford, here with my amazing business partner and co-founder of this community, Celebrate You Women Embracing Wellness, Miss Barbara Beckley. Barbara, how's it going?
It's going good.
I'm so excited because now that we're in 2022, Barbara and I get to unpackage and share with you some amazing things that we're doing. And we're going to give you little teasers here on this page, but a lot of the work that we're doing for women, and not only within the country, the United States, but around the world, is going to be happening outside of Facebook. Like we always say, Celebrate You is more than a Facebook group. We started outside of Facebook, but came onto Facebook, but again, we extend beyond the boundaries of social media. And today we're here to talk to you about our free mini masterclass. First of all, I want to apologize. We were going to have the class. It was scheduled for last week. If any of you have been following my post on my personal page, I even posted a brief share in the community. There's just been a lot of family crises going on. And Barbara and I thought that our team had sent out a message apologizing, stating that we had to reschedule, and we found out it hadn't been sent out. So here we are. And we hope those of you did get the message, because I personally went and sent out an apology to everyone who had registered. And that's why we decided to bring this on the platform. So whether you're just chilling or maybe wrapping up dinner, pull up a chair and get you something to write with. We're going to share with you 5 steps to increase the impact of your social media, radio, TV, and podcast interviews. And I'm going to pitch this over to Barbara for a minute before we get deep into this mini masterclass. We know there's a ton of choices out there. There's a lot of people giving messaging. But what Barbara and I did is we realized, as being authors and wanting to create visibility for ourselves, that we realized it was beyond being visible. It was beyond just getting on the platform, but it was really understanding how to master the platform so that our message would hit the intended audiences that we wanted it to hit. Barbara is a social media strategist and a purpose strategist. So I want to toss it over to her and share a little bit about what she thinks about increasing your impact on these different platforms. Barbara.
Thank you, Luana. So like Luana said, it's really important first to really dig deep. Like we say, we need to know, first of all, who are you? What do you do? What is your purpose? Be it in your business or in life, but really we're talking about in your business. And when it comes to creating that impact, you hear that word a lot. I want to be an impactor. I want people to hear me. I want people to hear the word. I want to talk in front of 1 million people. I mean, we have that. I know I did when I found out what my purpose was. I was like, yeah, I really want to create that impact. But then I needed to understand, you just can't just say that and keep saying it. You have to put action to it. You have to do a strategy with it. You have to find out where you need to go so people can see the impact you're creating and see the value that you're giving them. So me and my wonderful partner here, Luana Bradford, came together and said, what can we do, especially for women in business, to understand that it's one thing to say it, it's another way to how to do it and how to strategize and get through that. So we put together this free mini masterclass to show you that there's certain steps to increase that. And that's what we're going to discuss this evening.
I love what you said, Barbara. You have to be able to, you mentioned the word strategy, and I am a strategist by profession. I've been doing strategic planning for big business and small business for over 30 years, but it's also about having those measures of success, not just being willy-nilly, not just throwing something to the wall and hoping that it sticks, but being very laser focused and very strategic with those measures in place, that if I do this, if I turn 10 degrees left or 10 degrees right, the likelihood that I'm going to end up at my destination is going to be highly likely. So that's what we're going to get into. Let's get started, Barbara. Next slide. Okay. Tom Ford stated, the most important things in life are the connections you make with others. So why do we get on these different platforms? Why do we showcase our message? What is the so what factor, Barbara?
So, oh, go next, free. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. So the so what factor is, again, it's more than visibility. It's the message. Why should people care? As Barbara said, who are you? There are 7.5, I think 7.8 billion people on the earth. Why should the world pause for a moment and take notice of you? It's just like we're right here now. Why should you pause and take notice of me and Barbara at 6 p.m. Eastern time on a Thursday night? Because we have information that's going to help you. How do we know that? Because it's the things that we apply every single day in our business in order to elevate our voice, to amplify our message, to magnify that spotlight that is on us and on our business. As you can see here, both Barbara and I have been seen on platforms ranging from USA Today, NBC, ABC, Fox News, CW, Telemundo, the Boston Herald. And again, we didn't just randomly pick these. It's because of publications, because of creating those awareness. It has allowed us to be featured on these platforms. And we don't say it boastfully, but it took strategic effort. It took key partnerships to enable us to open certain doors and create a lens of visibility that we wanted in order to help elevate what we're doing. Barbara, you want to add to that?
Yes. So just like Luana said, we took, just going back to being strategic, we looked at other partners. Luana has her other partners too. I work with other people. And we said to ourselves, what platforms, which we'll get a little bit of that, in some of our tips, are really what we want to zone into. So some of the platforms you see on the screen right now, where we've been seen at, that was strategically done. Because again, going back to what kind of impact are you trying to make? So now you need to get on those platforms so they can see that impact, who you are. They can see your credibility. They can see what you do. They can see what value you bring. Just like Luana said, we're just not here on the 6 o'clock in the Eastern time, just talking to you, but we're trying to give you something to help you move you, the needle in your life. So that's what you have to think about when you're looking for those platforms and things to make that impact, as we say.
And the one thing I know, Barbara, you'll agree with me, 3-4 years ago, as we were expanding in different lanes, there was no one here to tell me what to do. I mean, this is through trial and error and doing our own self-study and digging in, and then finally partnering with experts in the lane of publicity or the lane of traditional media, the lanes of marketing, to say, okay, how do we do this and do it better? So again, we didn't have a platform like this to say, we know where you're going, we get you, we are you, and we're going to give you some tips and tools and strategies so you don't have to beat your head, against the wall trying to figure things out. These are things that work, that, again, Barbara and I are using them consistently in order to create that impact and influence that we want. Next slide. So as Barbara stated, and I think this is better, I want Barbara to start this off because her whole platform is about that purpose. So Barbara, you want to take this one on?
Yeah, so the first key that we want to get into is, number one, know your why, know your position, know who you are. It starts off, I always tell, before you can go on the outside and help people impact and all that we keep talking about, you need to understand, why do you want to be interviewed, or do you have a story to tell? Do you have a product or service to tell? You have to understand that and understand how it's going to influence other people. So you need to know that why, you know that why before you can even look at the fact of who should interview me, where I should go to be interviewed, because you have to take that position. And I'm also throw this in because a lot of times people say, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know my position. I know what, business I'm supposed to run. And then a lot of times dig deep. you got to believe. Because if you don't believe in who you are and what you're standing for in your business, then I don't care how many people say certain things or what you say, you got to believe in that. So I'm going to throw that in there because, you know, sometimes people tell us certain things of who you are and what position and why and knowing your why, but then you take on somebody else's why and not your own. So really dig deep. That's why this is the first key for this, is understanding that point, because that takes you on to the other keys that we're going to talk about. So the first thing is, we ask the question, I feel that getting interviewed will allow me to what? Will allow me to express the value I give, will allow me to create that change and some of that transformation. What is that interview going to make, you know, allow you to do? And then the next question
Wait,
is,
let's pause right there, Barbara. So as we are going through, as Barbara's giving you these tips, I want you to think about, I want you to answer this for yourself, for your business, for your product, for your service, for your message. As Barbara says, you're excited. It's like, whoa, I can be on someone's platform. And I always say, so what? So what is it that you will achieve by being interviewed? So take a moment and write that down. Barbara, you want to give an example why interviewing for the Diamond Factor is important?
yes. So I have a platform, the Diamond Factor, network. And the biggest thing is, I always tell people, I want to bring people on so they can understand a people's deep purpose on why they started their business or what they do, period. And know where they came from, where they're at now, and then give hope to others so they know that they can do or start a business, whatever they're doing, because this individual they heard on my platform did it. So it's kind of seeing that success story. So a lot of people that come to me, I vent them, because I ask them, I say, okay, this platform, you're going to have to dig a little deep. It's not just you're going to come here and say, I sell this product. Hi, thank you so much. No, it's more than that. Because I always see that people should see where you came from. How did you, the steps that you took to get to that point in your life, in your business life. So that's people that come on my show. That's what I do for them. Then after they tell that story, then they can start saying, well, this is where I am now, and this is what I do, and this is the value I bring. So that's one platform for that. So going back to that first question we have, I feel that getting interviewed will allow me to. You have to make sure, okay, knowing your why, do you want to tell that story? Is it a certain way how you want to do it? Is that platform for you? And we'll get into that in a little bit. But you want to make sure that you know that why, is because that's kind of like, and I want to say boundary for you to say which platform you probably need to be on, and maybe a platform that maybe is not for you. So that's where you choose that. So for the first two questions, the second question, I'm sorry, the most important thing that I want to share during an interview. Now that's really vital, especially when you don't have that much time. So you want to make sure, ask yourself, out of everything you do, that purpose, that big why, what is the main important thing you want to share in your interview? And you want that to really, I'm going to use shine. I know that's part of but that shines in you, in your business. Luana.
No, that's key. When if you're not prepared, you don't know how that interview may shift and turn. And as Barbara said, the time can go so quickly, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't tell them. And that's that big thing that you wanted to say. So make sure that you are ready, that you find a way. If you're not asked that specific question that's going to give you license to provide that most important thing that you want to share, then you find a way to weave it in. And one of the things that as we talk, we're giving you these tips, but we also have this is the mini masterclass. We also have the masterclass that does a deep dive and shows you how to tease out not only that most important thing, but then how to strategically weave it in, especially when that interview is being dominated by the interviewer. Next slide.
And just before we get to the next slide, just to remind everybody, this is like a little mini checklist. This little mastermind that we're doing, mini mastermind, it's a little checklist. This is things that you should put like on a piece of paper, put it in your own document so you can say when you go back and you look at the things to kind of check off. So just to let you know, us as moving forward, you can use that as your own little checklist.
Vetting your interview. Key number 2, your interviewer. That's the platform that you're going on. All platforms are not created equal. All chairs are not the right chairs for you to sit in. It may be great. They may have 1 million audiences, but if those million viewers have zero interest in purpose because they are game and wildlife, then why are you sitting there? So again, we have to pause and create that strategy. Just like you do any strategy, your social business media strategy, your business strategies, your customer relationship strategies. There needs to be a strategy in how you are showing up. And you want to ask yourself, if I'm vetting this particular interviewer or platform, I want to understand what level of influence they may have, what level of influence I may be able to gain by being on this platform. What is the reach? Meaning how many potential audience members, viewers, listeners will I reach? And then the credibility. Well, how credible is this platform? What's its reputation? Will it allow me to position myself as a credible subject matter expert, influencer, leader, motivational speaker, inspirational leader, whatever your shtick is, will it allow you to sit in that seat of credibility? And again, when we go into the masterclass, we dig really deep because there's key components in this. It's not just simply, okay, yes, this is something for influence. Yes, this has enough reach. As I said, you can have 1 million viewers, but if those viewers have zero interest in what you're doing, you just basically spent your time rehearsing. And Barbara, can I share my story? So I was on a platform. I was so excited. It was a national radio show. I immediately said yes, because all I heard was the word national. And I jumped on the show and I started talking about my mortgage company. But then they specifically said, well, this particular episode, even though we're national, this episode is going to be in a certain region of the US. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's all right if it's not all 50 states, that's okay. Well, guess what? If I had done my homework, I would have found out that the region that particular show was featured on was not the region where I could do loans. So yes, I gave information that could help people who were working with brokers who could help them in their area. But I technically could not do business there. So again, it's just, had I just done a little bit of digging, it wouldn't have taken a lot of work to just taken time to explore who this audience is. And could I, in fact, obviously I could give them some value, but could there be potential value back to me? So just an example. Do your homework. That. Barbara.
Oh, I love this one. So key 3, always be prepared. That framework. As I always tell people, have your notebook ready, have your pen and pad ready, whatever you have to do to write it, because the question is what we say here, to have questions or not have questions. That is the question. So you want to make sure that you have questions that makes you feel a certain way. Not having questions make you feel. So say that, for instance, some people like to have questions up front from the interviewer. They might say, well, can you just give me a few questions, what you're going to ask? You can ask that from the interview. The interviewer might turn around and say, well, you know what? This is going to be a conversation. I don't really, we're going to have a talk. There's no questions to have. I mean, I'm not going to, I don't really have questions I'm going to give to you up front. So that's when you have to ask yourself, okay, now you got to prepare yourself for that. Because that goes back to what we were talking about, what's important that you want to say, and be ready for some of the questions that they ask you about you. Because most of the time they're going to ask questions, even if they don't give you the questions up front, somewhere it's going to narrow down to what you do, what topic it is, because again, they're bringing you on, you're going on the show or the interview for that reason. So you have to make sure that you're ready, that going back to what your position is. See how all this reaches back to what we talked about. And having questions. So how does that make you feel? I know sometimes I tell people, I don't mind people not getting, I don't mind myself not getting the questions, because I feel I can flow better without having. When you have questions in front of you, it almost sounds like a robot sometimes, because you have it right next to you, you're with the interviewer, and they say, first question is, what do you do? And in your mind, you're like, I do this. Knowing good and well, you don't talk that way. It should flow out to say, well, this is what I do and I impact, but you're so busy looking at those questions they gave you that you want to, just you say it out, you just like talk it out. So you have to feel, it all comes back to how you feel, if you want them ahead of time or if you don't mind having them at all. And some people, it depends on how you operate. Some people, when they have questions on their website of when they have interviews, they said, these are some of the questions I would like you to ask me. So they come prepared. They'll send an interviewer some questions that they want them to ask as well. But it has to be that conversation that you have with that platform to see how that's going to work. One.
Exactly. And I always challenge, because when we're doing this as a live mini masterclass with, we're live, but actually we're interfacing with the attendees. One of the things I challenge people who say, well, because we'll do a poll, and most people will say, well, I love having questions first. Well, my question to you, if you're one of those that are raising your hand saying, yes, I want to have the questions first, it makes me feel more comfortable if I know what's coming at me. My question to you, and this is just a challenge, is, are you not the expert of whatever your message is or service or product that you're offering? If you are that expert, then showcase yourself as that. Because as Barbara said, when you sound very robotic in your response, it's very obvious. I remember interviewing one person and she was just adamant, I have to have the questions. And I said, well, I don't conduct interviews that way, but since you're getting so flustered, I said, I'll give you a few of the questions. And she actually had it scripted. You know how you can have your teleprompter? Well, I could tell she was reading it, and it sounded so insincere. The audience, it was really hard for the audience to connect because she was just doing this perfect read. But then when I threw one sizzle in there, I said, well, here's a question that wasn't on the list. She wasn't able to just be on point. And some of you may say, well, Luana, that wasn't fair. Well, because I know my platform and how my platform is designed, again, you want to always respect the house. If a person says, and I love one of the most powerful interviewers of our generation, who was an influencer and a leader, is Cyrus Webb. So if you don't know who he is, check him out. But Cyrus Webb does not give you interview questions. But I guarantee you, he has done his due diligence and has done his homework on you, who you say you are, what you say you're doing. So sometimes I can tell, it's like, wow, he seems to know more about that person than they know of themselves. So again, you want to be prepared. You want to be comfortable who you are, what you're bringing to the table, and just be you, be authentic. That is going to endear and attract people more to you than if you come very stiff, very robotic, very scripted. You have to be comfortable in your skin. You have to be comfortable in this lane of interviewing or being spotlighted if that's what you want to do and be. Barbara.
So make sure that, you have to ask yourself that question. Just going back, just really quickly going back, having questions make me feel, this way. I feel secure. I feel, better than I know ahead of time. Some people, that's in their head and they want that. Some people say having questions make me feel scripted or robotic, like we said. So maybe you don't want that. Then the other question, not having questions, makes me feel, well, I feel more free. I can talk about me more because now I don't have that little condensed of, okay, I have to answer this question. And not having questions, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I'm panicking. So you have to go by what you feel and see when you're talking again to that interviewer, how that works. Like Luana said, a big important thing Luana said is you have to respect the house. You have to respect the house that you're in. So you have to make sure, know all the rules of the house.
Yeah, and as this key says, always being prepared. So many times, because Barbara and I do a lot of interviews, and we often we'll share, some of our good experiences and bad experiences of guests on our shows. And we can tell when someone has prepared themselves versus that person who said, yeah, I got an interview and I just come and I sit down. So here's a challenge for you. I want you to treat every single opportunity that you have, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's a TV, traditional TV, radio, whatever's out there, mixed media of types. I want you to treat it as though you had the opportunity to interview with Oprah Winfrey. If you have that mindset, first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be in her seat. Thirdly, you're going to respect the house. And fourthly, you're going to come prepared. And the last thing is you're going to make sure that you make the most of that opportunity. Why? Because how many times will you get the opportunity to sit in Oprah's chair? And I say that to say, we as human beings are all equal. Don't look at one person as, oh, well, it's just Barbara, or it's just Luana, or it's just Sally Sue. No, it's someone who has a platform that you need to get your voice amplified, magnified to more people. And when you respect it that way, you'll show up in a very different way. Mm-hmm. Barbara.
Oh, can I add one more thing to that? Because you just sparked something real quickly. Just to add to all that good nuggets that Mrs. Luana just told you, think about the fact, add to it your reputation. This is your reputation. This is you. Why would you just want to go whatever, silly willy, or whatever you want to call it? This is about your brand. Now we're talking about your brand. Now we're talking about, and the brand is not your website colors and fonts. Your brand is how you show up. So just remember that too, added to what Luana said as well.
Yeah, love that. Good point. Okay, managing your time. Very, 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 very important. And this is where when we have our live session, and this is kind of fun, is we take you through an exercise. So you decide what is that key message that you want to deliver, whatever it is. And can you do it in 30 minutes? Most people say, yes, I can. We've had a few in our class that say, oh, I need more than 30. But most people say, yeah, I can definitely deliver that key message, that key so what factor to the right person in 30 minutes. And then we massage it down. We say, well, guess what? You don't have 30, you have 20 minutes. Can you do it? That's going to be a little hard. And we feel a little bit of resistance, but they're like, I think I can do that. Same message in 10. Now, this is where when we get into our master class, this is where we go into that 10-minute packaging. Because every single message that you have, no matter what it is that you're selling, pitching, promoting, endorsing, creating education, information, entertainment, you should still be able to take that 30-minute spot and whittle it down to 10 and still have the same impact, the same sizzle that makes you memorable. See, if I'm selling, and I'll use me with mortgages, if I'm selling mortgages to an investor, and I've got a new investment product for investors, and someone tells me, oh, Luana, you have 30 minutes. Well, now I'm going to talk about I'm going to do a little bit of training on it. I'm going to give some examples. I'm going to do a lot to fill in that time. But if they said, Luana, you got 10 minutes. Well, first of all, I'm going to take the first 1 to 2 minutes to find out who's in the room and what are their pain points. Because when I know that, then I'm going to be able to reframe and target right to them. I'm not going to assume that if I throw out this message that it's going to land on everybody's ears in the way that it wants. So once I streamline and I know, okay, these investors are having problems because their cash, they may be cash rich, But from a document standpoint, and this is just using an example, it doesn't show that they make a lot of money because as business owners, they're writing off a lot. But in the bank, they have the money. So now I'm going to talk about the different loan programs that are specific to that need. I'm going to talk about the terms like bank statement loans. I'm going to talk about business purpose loans, and then show them how they can, what are the qualifying factors for that. And then I'm going to do my call to action. So that's the 10 minutes. But if I have 30 minutes, I'm going to be bringing up scenarios and, stories and everything else, and doing a lot of Q&A interaction with my audience. But again, if you have from 30 to 10, can you do it in 10? But here's the kicker. Same message, same CTA, same impact, targeting the right audience. Now you have 3 minutes. So when we get into that masterclass, we dig really deep because we want you to be able to take that powerful 30-minute talk. It could be a signature talk. It could be a 30-minute training. It could be an informational. It could be a conversation that you're having with a show host. It could be an actual 30-minute interview, and suddenly ABC local news knocks on your door and says, Barbara, we heard that the Diamond Factor is talking about the PPD message. We got a 3-minute time slot. Can you come on the show? Well, Barbara needs to be ready she's got her so what factor so driven in that she's ready to go. She's like, yes. And she knows that by the time that 3 minutes is over, not only do they know who Barbara Beckley is, they know who the Diamond Factor is, they know how to connect with the Diamond Factor, they know what PPD is, what it means to them, and what her next program is, and how they can sign up for the program in 3 minutes. So that's why we talk about time management is so key. Always ask the host, how much time do I have? Because you may have a 30-minute interview, but guess what? It may actually only be a 20-minute interview, because if you're on live radio, what do they have? Promotions coming in and out. Shout out to my sponsor. They may have a pause for some music to play. Suddenly that 30 minutes is really only 20 minutes. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready. And the worst thing, and Barbara, I want to turn this over to you. The worst thing is to go through this wonderful interview and you run out of time and they have to sign off, right? Because it's like, that's all they have. It may be on TV or radio, so you don't have the same flexibility as a Facebook Live or maybe even a podcast, because you've got, back-to-back shows coming on. And you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't tell them how they can contact me. And the show has gone off the air. Barbara.
Yeah, that's why we say on here, don't forget your CTA, your call to action, and how they can get to you. I mean, that's one of the kind of main reasons why you're on there. And this is a story I haven't told Luana, but it happened to me where I did the opposite. I was so busy into my talking about, like she said, what my purpose that I wanted, the value I want to bring is, and then the interviewer's like, oh, okay, well, that's it for tonight. Thank you, Barb, for coming on the show. And I was like, you can reach me at, I couldn't even say you could reach me at, because she cut me completely off. I mean, not just cut me off as I was sitting there talking to her, she took me out of the room to make sure I wasn't
out.
To make sure I wasn't going to cut her off. So you need to make sure, like Luana says, it's very important that you don't leave them hanging to try to find out where to find you, where to get to you. So that's very important. Thanks, Luana. Okay. Now we're going to. Okay, looks like Luana's on pause. Okay. So our next key. And I hope people hear me. Our next key is number 5, repurpose content. Repurpose content. Now, this is where you have to ask yourself, and we said this before, how valuable is your time? Think about it. How valuable is your time? Out of a 24-hour time frame, how valuable is your time? And I'm going to let LaWanna take this on because I know she's really good at this part of it. But I want you to think before we get into detail about repurposing your content. Because once you have that interview, once you do that due diligence of saying who you are, telling people the value that you give, and then that's, the CTA, as we said, how to contact you. Now what? See, now there's a now what after that. You just did the interview, so okay, it's there. Okay, I'll play it a few times. I'll see it. Thank you very much. Or do you get a copy of it? And now you can start repurposing that and making sure that you use that interview wisely. Again, what we're talking about, strategically putting it in other places, not just that one time, like they say, one and done. You don't want it to be a one and done. So LaWanna, I know you can explain about, looking at your hourly rates.
Yes, thank you. So when we get into the masterclass, we will really be talking about that me repurposing, but repurposing it with intent, with intention. Not just, okay, I can repurpose it, so that means I'm putting it on Facebook and LinkedIn. No, that's still throwing stuff against the wall, hoping that they will come. That's not what we're talking about with repurposing. So again, we're going to go into strategically assessing, does it make sense? And when I'm repurposing it, do I literally take the exact same thing that I did and pop it over here? Or do I slice and dice it? What do I do? Why am I doing it? So again, we dig into that component. And Barbara mentioned your time. Your time is valuable. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. The one thing we don't know is how many days we have left. Again, we have the same 24 hours in a day. We do not know how many days we have left. So our question is, when you are getting your message out there, when you are servicing the world with your product and service, you need to weigh the value of your time. Because once it's put out there, you cannot get it back. Barbara and I being here for 1 hour, we weighed the cost. Why are we here? Because we're here to deliver what we believe is a very important message that can help you avoid some hurdles and some headaches in order to level up your game that much faster and that much more secure. The one thing you want to think about is, what is your hourly rate? Most people in corporate America can tell you what their hourly rate is. If you work for an employer, you know what your hourly rate is. Even if you're salaried, you divide that by 1950 hours typically, and you figure out this is what my hourly rate is. But for the entrepreneur, many, especially small, they sit back. It's like, oh, I never thought about that. Well, we want you, and this is where we get into the class, we want you to think about, what is that hourly rate? Your true hourly rate, not what I want to make. Don't tell me your hourly rate's $200 an hour and you're not even breaking $50,000 a year. Then something's wrong. Either your rates are too high. You're not working it full time, because if you're working it full time at $200 an hour, you should easily be way over $100,000 a year. But that's another talk for another day. But for this talk, understanding what your hourly rate, this is why it's important. Because you want to know every time you get on a platform, you are marketing. So you may have put marketing dollars on the table, or it may just be your time, but all of it equates to dollars. So when you understand what your hourly rate is, and let's say the average interview is 30 minutes. Again, the average interview is 30 minutes. You want to divide that hourly rate by 2. So simple math, $100 an hour is Barbara's hourly rate. I'm just making it up. I have no idea what Barbara makes an hour, okay? But I'm not putting her business on the street. But just for an example, she makes $100 an hour. We divide that by 2. Her hourly rate for an interview is $50. That's called your AIC, your average interview cost. If you do a pay to play, meaning not only is that 30 minutes of her time, she knows if I sit here for 30 minutes, then that's $50 that I'm not making by doing my business. Think about that, okay? Now she's going to add that to her P2P cost, her pay to play cost. That's going to give her the gross cost of being on that platform. So let's say Barbara Beckley is being interviewed on my platform, Business and Financial Raw Talk. And let's say it's a pay to play for all the promotion, for her sitting there for 30 minutes. And the press release that she gets, it may be $150. So she's on my show. It costs her $150 to pay to play. Her AIC, average interview cost, is $50. Now her gross cost for that 30 minutes of time is $200. And again, when we get into the masterclass, we go deep into this. Now, when she has that, she knows when I'm interviewing, I have to figure out, how do I translate this interview into money? How do I monetize this interview? And I challenge all of you that are out there that are on a whole bunch of platforms being interviewed left and right. Go back just the last 3 months and ask yourself, how many platforms were you on? What's your hourly rate? Look at the gross cost if you did a pay to play, and tell me, how much did you actually invest? Again, in that time money translation in this type of marketing, because that's what you're doing. You're marketing and promoting yourself. And you may say, and I'm going to use Barbara as an example. One time we were talking, and at the end of the year, she's like, wow, I invested over $10,000. And I say, great. And how much did you make? And she said, I didn't make $10,000. So we talk about, how do you now flip that to where you're able to monetize? Doesn't mean every single interview you make, it's going to turn around and make you money. No, but the more awareness you create, the more you position yourself as a subject matter expert, the more doors to monetize are going to open for you. And ultimately, it will average out to you doubling, tripling, quadrupling, 10xing, as Grant Cardone says, your initial investment of your time and your money. So that's the one thing that's real important to Barbara and I. It's like, you're out there, but you're out there for a reason, unless it's philanthropic and you just want to share. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're really interviewing because you want to promote your business, your services, your products, you want to create this following, get people to join your academies, your master classes, whatever it is, then you need to have a strategy and a methodology to get there. Again, just hope methodology isn't going to work. And the other thing, as Barbara said, going back to the repurposing, most people are one and dones. Most people are one and dones, meaning they are in on the Diamond Factor. Yay, I was on the Diamond Factor. And we never hear or see that interview again. In fact, I never even hear them talk about the interview post interview. And sometimes not even pre-interview. Now, your mouth is free advertising. It's not going to cost you anything to say, hello, people, come watch me, come listen to me. Oh, and if you missed it, by the way, here it is. That doesn't cost you anything but a few clicks of the button. But most people we're finding say absolutely nothing. And then are quick to say, I don't know about you, but and they'll fold their arms, I didn't hear from anyone. It's like, well, of course you didn't. Why are you surprised? You were on a great platform, the Diamond Factor, who does all this pre-promotion for you. But you didn't. I look on your page, you didn't promote the Diamond Factor. You didn't say you were going to be on. And even afterwards, you didn't share. You're on to your next venture and your next venture and your next venture. But you're not building momentum. It's not getting you anywhere. It keeps falling flat. So that's what we talk about. Understanding, remember that first slide about those relationships, right? Understanding how to leverage them and use them. And Barbara is so brilliant at this. And that's why I've partnered with her. I mean, not just in this business, but other businesses. We are the Bradford Group and the Diamond Factor Collaborative. It's not just in name. And she brings a strength, I bring a strength, and together we believe that we can go farther together. And we believe and know that we can help you where through our mistakes, through our lessons learned, pass it on so you can go do better, go faster, go farther.